What's going on, everybody? It's yours truly, Coach Mike Dub, here with another edition of Lockdown Sports Studio. We're here, we're in full gear, just a few weeks away from an NFL draft, and it's starting to get exciting. We got pro days picking up, we got mock drafts back and forth, all types of content that's going on. So I know I'm excited for this time of year. Pretty much everybody else is just as excited as well. So we're going to jump into it. This week we got some good content for you. You'll be getting a full 7 round breakdown of our teams, who we think we should draft, who may be available, what pivots we may need to make. All of the above, man. And it's just really an exciting time to be an NFL fan. So of course, I'm going to kick things off talking about the Commanders, everything that we need to address in the draft, who might fall to us. Will it be a good draft for us? Will it be one that we want to forget? Who knows? Time will tell. Of course, we have struck gold in recent drafts. I don't have to, go into detail with that, but obviously, we're on the different side of things now where we don't have too many needs to plug. Just a few, here and there to keep things going, get some depth, a few playmakers on the offensive side of the ball, a few run stoppers and secondary members on the defensive side of the ball, and we're gonna keep this thing rolling. So that being said, we're going to jump right into it for the Commanders, right? Who should we draft? What type of positions are we going to be targeting? We're going to get into all that. Like I said, we're coming off of a great year, not having too many holes to plug. We are very active in free agency and also with trades. So I'm happy about that. That makes the draft so much easier when you don't have to land somebody who's going to have to come in and contribute right away with all our picks. We got some guys that we were able to pay for, got some guys that we were able to make some moves for that come in and help us immediately on the offensive side of the ball, especially. But then also on the defensive side of the ball, we made some moves as well. So I say all that to say I think that more focus will be on the defensive side of the ball for the draft just to add depth. Also, plug and play guys every now and then. Also, some special teamers. We had some close games that came down to special teams. And of course, in your later rounds in the draft, you're looking for guys to fill those gaps. So that's something that we'll be looking, to address in the draft as well. But I'm glad that we addressed a lot of big issues and a lot of things that we wanted to take care of going into the next season of free agency and with trades. So when we think about what we're going to target, so here we are. We don't have a 3rd round pick, don't have a 5th round pick, but at the same time, we got enough picks that we can make some things happen. Look there, we got some pretty decent positions. As far as where we're picking, it's going to take a lot of uh, scouting and a lot of digging to find those guys to come in and contribute with these positions, though. So I will say I'm excited about that. The positions that I looked at when I went into the mock draft were safety, edge rusher, linebacker, tight end, and guard. And actually, when I say tight end, I'm looking for an offensive weapon, depending on what's available, the best available offensive weapon. I think we need maybe one more to add to that offensive side of the ball. Running back is an area that I would like to address if there's a good guy available in the later rounds or the mid to late rounds. But overall, I think that we're going to have to start addressing, like I said, the tight end position. Ertz has been good, but obviously he's getting up there in age. Wide receiver, we addressed that position and with trades and also in free agency. So depending on who's available, maybe we want to add somebody there. But number one priority is actually on the defensive side of the ball, like I mentioned before, edge rusher, some depth on that front line, and then also safety position, and then also some depth at that linebacker position. So that being said, let me just start out by saying our first round pick when I did the mock draft for the Commanders, I was pleasantly surprised. I was pleasantly surprised with the guys that fell to us. Once again, it was completely simulated. Didn't set anything up. But if things were to fall this way, I would be ecstatic. I was much happier with the mock draft for the full 7 rounds than I would have expected because there were some people that fell to us that I didn't think was going to be available. So we're going to jump right into it. With the first round, the person that fell to us that I loved and that I never really saw coming It wasn't on my top priority list to address, but he was the best available, and I thought that we had to send that card in ASAP. Was Colston Loveland, tight end from Michigan. Amazing player. He's a guy that, was a big part of that offense. And for many reasons, like I said, I didn't expect him to be available when I did the mock draft, but he was available and we wanted to go ahead and grab him. It was a close decision. It was between him and another player that was available, but we wanted to make sure that we got the best available player on the board at the time. Colston Loveland, if he's available at that pick, I think we should absolutely jump on it and make that happen. Why do I love this pick? So obviously providing more weapons for Jaden Daniels, making sure that he has versatility, making sure that the offense is able to, to be versatile and to do a lot of different things. I love how Colston Loveland can get open. He gets separation, which is huge, especially when you're talking about a quarterback who likes to improvise, move around in the pocket. We've seen what Kelsey does. We've seen what Kittle can do. It's good that they can route run, but it's also good that they'll be able to find the gaps in the defense. That's huge for those third down conversions and just those times where you need to make a play. Obviously, Terry is our go-to guy now. We added Debo into the mix, but Colston Loveland could just take that offense to the next level. I would love it if he's available there. It's funny, when I think about Colston Loveland, when I was looking up the stats, throughout the first 3 games of the season, he was on pace to have 100 targets, which he's the only tight end in college football history to be on pace for that, except for one other person. And that one other person was Trey McBride. Trey McBride, obviously the tight end for the Cardinals. And who was it that drafted Trey McBride? You got it, Cliff Kingsbury. So I think that Cliff Kingsbury could definitely find some things to do with Colston Loveland, definitely find a way that he could fit into our offense, and he would be a huge favorite for Jaden Daniels in this offense as they continue to grow. So once again, I was pleasantly surprised that he was available. But if this is, something that we can do, I'm all for it. I say go for it. I would love the pick. So now we get into the second round. I mentioned before we wanted to address tight end, we wanted to address edge. Also, we wanted to address offensive line, interior offensive line, and of course the safety position. Boom, which leads us to second round. Once again, I was pleasantly surprised that he was there. It was a pick that we wanted to hurry up and get that card in because this is a position that I feel like is probably one of the only positions that we still are looking for our starter at this point. We got our starters just about across the board, looking for depth in other places, but at safety, I think we're still looking for a guy to kind of come in and be able to, to play for us right away. So Xavier Watts, the versatile safety out of Notre Dame, can do a little bit of everything. The reason why I love this pick is because he is a ball hawk. He's going to go out there. He's going to force turnovers for us, get that ball back to our offense. And he's also, very versatile. Can play in the box, can play over top. That's what we need in our defense. We're going to have to move guys around. You never know where you're going to have to put people based off of production, based off of injuries, all kinds of things. So versatility is huge, especially at that safety position. You're looking for guys that are interchangeable. And then also a ball hawk. I love that. Love the pick. Love the production that he had from Notre Dame coming off of a winning season. Our first 2 picks are from blue blood programs that, know how to win. They know good practice habits. So I would love to have them, add them to this team, add them to this locker room. I think this will be a great pick for us in round 2. Now, coming up next, it starts to get a little different, right? We don't have a third round pick. So now we're going to have to start digging into the 4th round. Now we want to start addressing our depth. This is a round that I was once again pleasantly surprised and happy with who was available for us. A great edge rusher, somebody who can rush the passer, Ashton Gillett from Louisville. He's a guy that can collapse the pocket, put some pressure on that quarterback, which makes things easier on our secondary. Once again, he's a rotational guy, so you can get him in there, mix him in there with Cleveland Farrell and the other defensive linemen that are in there to stop the run and plug up the run. But now we get a change of pace. We get somebody who can come in there and collapse the pocket. And of course, in the AFC or NFC East, I should say, we got some pretty good quarterbacks, pretty decent quarterbacks. guys that like to, to get out there and run a little bit, use their legs. But, if we can collapse the pocket and make them have to step up and beat us with their arm, put pressure on them, I think that's going to help out our defense a big time, in a big way. So I love this pick for us. Once again, this is going to be the rounds where we have to start digging a little bit to start finding those gems. And I think if we're fortunate enough for him to fall to us, we'll be in good position. So just two more picks left. Of course, trying to address our depth issues. If you've been listening, we addressed our tight end, we addressed our safety position, and now our edge, which I believe are our top three priorities. Next would be offensive line. Also, the defensive side of the ball, linebacker. Depending on who's available, those are two things that we want to address as well with our last two picks. So, round 6, Garrett Dillinger. Now, he played for LSU, which is arguably one of the best, if not the best, offensive lines in college football this past year. He's extremely versatile. In his time in college, he played both left guard and right guard. Also played a little bit of center. I love this pick for that reason. Why do I love this pick? Obviously, we're dealing with some injury issues before the end of the season. Sam Cosmi went down with an ACL injury. Not sure when he'll be back. We may have to start the season off, with a little bit of a flexible look on the offensive line. So we're going to be looking for guys who can do a little bit of everything. And I think he's somebody that we'll be able to plug him in wherever we need him. I mentioned before he played for a great, great offensive line in LSU. Did an amazing job in run blocking and pass blocking. I think if we're lucky enough, I actually think we might have to grab him in the 4th round or a little bit earlier. May even have to look up the trading up for him, depending on how the interior offensive linemen are looking. But during the mock draft, he was available at 6. We had to jump on it. But once again, I do think that this may be a position that we might have to trade up for or make a move for, just because of how versatile he is and how well he played this year. But that's somebody that I'll definitely be targeting for us to kind of plug up that depth in the offensive line, tighten that up. Also, like I said, we're dealing with some injuries. So in the case that happens, you want to be able to move the offensive lineman around and have them be interchangeable. And last but not least, our last round, there's one more position or a few more positions that we wanted to address, mainly that depth in the linebacker position. Bobby Wagner's getting up there in age. You're hoping to, find somebody that could possibly be his replacement. But obviously in the later rounds, these are guys that are going to be contributors in special teams as well. So you're looking for people who have high motors and people who can help you in various places. We're going to go with Eugene Asante. And this is a very special pick for a few reasons. Number one, he's a local kid, straight out of Alexandria, Virginia, the DMV. Funny enough, he's the brother of a former NFL player, Larry Asante, who was actually one of my former teammates in high school. So I know this family well, know what they're able to do. And I think that it will be a nice story for him to come home and play for the Commanders. And I mentioned before, round 7, you're looking for guys that are going to come in, contribute on special teams, earn their way onto the field, be those gritty guys. And I think, Eugene Asante is one of those people. Very athletic. And he's also going to be very useful with blitz packages. That was probably where he was the most effective at Auburn. Not really a coverage guy, decent in run protection, but putting pressure on the quarterback, which once again is something, an area that we want to increase in. So I think that him coming in there will give him an opportunity to increase in that area as well. So that's how we're going to round out our draft. Once again, I was very pleasantly surprised with the guys that fell to us. Some of these guys, I think we may have to trade up to get, but I think that the 5 guys that we named here, they will be an amazing fit for the team. I think we will be able to address everything that we needed to address, and I think this will be the next step to making that, making a successful season. So be on the lookout for other mock drafts coming up as we get closer to the actual draft later in the month. As always, you can find us at our socials, which are posted here. But I'll check you guys out next time. Let me know your thoughts, and I'll see you later.